Let's take a look at your market news now. Asian markets fell in the midst of current economic uncertainty over the coronavirus epidemic. Hong Kong stocks closed lower on Wednesday, tracking those Asian market falls. The Shanghai Composite Index closed down 0.94% at 2,968 points. The Hang Seng Index fell 0.6% to 25,231 points. And Japan's Nikkei Index fell 2.3% to end at 19,416 points. Over on Wall Street, that roared back to life on Tuesday, rebounding from the brink of a bear market confirmation as bargain hunting and hopes of government stimulus calmed investors' looming fears surrounding the coronavirus and growing signs of an imminent recession. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 4.89% to close at 25,018. The S&P 500 gained 4.94% to 2,882. And the Nasdaq Composite added 4.95%. Closed at 8,344. Let's continue finding out what's happening in the markets. Arabile, I think I'm even scared of asking you what's happening after the chaos of the last few days and the volatility. Should I?
Look, even I don't know sometimes, and I wonder, right? And it's very fearful. But certainly today is a much better day across most indices, even if there is a sense of negativity, and volatility will remain for quite some time. Of course, a lot more certainty required with regards to the trajectory of how far things could go with the coronavirus and the spread thereof. Hopefully, some later date, we do find, of course, a vaccine which may begin to ease things along. The fears, however, in Shanghai, unfortunately, the rise in the number of cases, new cases, that is, of confirmed coronavirus cases, has picked up again after 4 days of decline. So, unfortunately, not necessarily helping the situation on that front. So, we are still fearful of how things may fare there. On the international front as well, we are asking ourselves just how far things will go. The markets have been tentative to move. Investors trying to find those easy bargains. Yes, we got a sense of what 2008, 2009 was like on Monday, but it doesn't seem to be a consistent fall to the tune of which we saw back in those days then as well. So hopefully we do get a sense of perhaps sustainability with regards to a flat stance more than just negativity across the indices. Let's take a look though at how Europe is faring, and we'll touch on the details on Europe and of course locally right after that. So 16 Rand and 6 cents then for a US dollar. Fortunately, that weakness still persisting in our local currency. Michael Traherne from Vestact Asset Management joining us here at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Michael, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. Our currency has just remained weaker. 1681 at some point on Monday. When you saw exactly what was going on, what was going through your head on Monday morning and throughout the rest of that day?
Yeah, I mean, those are the days when the market just goes into panic mode and doesn't care what happens, just sell at all costs. And that was sort of what was happening on Monday. I mean, I had to think hard, and I actually can't think of another time, particularly when you're looking at the US market, where 10 minutes into trading, they actually had to suspend trading because it had fallen so quickly and so fast. So, those are rough days, but those are the days that show that it is risky owning stocks. But it's because of risky days like that over the long run, owning stocks actually is probably one of the best asset classes to own, because most people can't handle those sort of days.
Yeah, they always say never waste a good crisis, but in a time of a crisis like this, for example, how do you keep those that are invested in the market a little more calm, and for those that aren't necessarily to say, well, this is still the place to be in?
Yeah, so we remind clients that the end of 2018, the market actually also dropped 20%. But because everyone was on the beach somewhere, no one noticed. So you make the point that, you've been through these sort of things before, not even in the distant future. You survived that, we will survive this. Humanity is resilient. Yes, our economy globally is probably going to struggle for the next quarter, but until we have more data on corona, we don't know what's going to happen. And it's that fear about what's going to happen that's actually the problem. So let's wait and see. China looks like they're on the mend. Alibaba reporting last night that their distribution network is back at 100%.
Yeah.
So let's see what happens. Like you're saying earlier, cases picking up slightly, but they're still well below where they were in terms of new cases. And if China is put the worst behind it, potentially Europe, Italy will get there soon as well.
Yeah, you speak of Alibaba. I think the founder actually just became the richest man in Asia all over again, actually, with things faring much better for him than some others in that region. All right, let's bring it perhaps a little bit more locally. We did have some big equity news on the local front, and I suppose we'll start on the banking front. ABSA coming out with a set of earnings there, hard hit by the economy, and yes, a new CEO who can't, I suppose, answer for too much, but it does tell you that the industry is going to struggle quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, you have a look at the results that new CEO had to talk about today. I think you'd be much happier reporting ABSA's numbers than Nedbank was last week. So Nedbank was under a bit of pressure. But overall, banking stocks generally follow what's happening in the economy. I mean, money in the economy very closely linked.
Yeah.
And ABSA's basically flat, slightly higher than last year this time. We finally have got rid of the once-offs relating to the Barclays divorce.
Yeah.
So those numbers always would make it difficult to compare, but now that's 2 years ago. But what really hurt them was an increase in bad debt, and that's not too surprising. When you're at lack of economic growth, you potentially not having the raises that people are expecting, you're not seeing job numbers increase. It's to be expected that bad debt potentially increase. So that hurting them a bit. Looking forward, they say there's a lot of toughness ahead, and that's sort of the sentiment echoed by all the banks. So if you have a look at ABSA compared to the rest of the JSE, trades on a PE of about 7. That's really, really cheap, and it's because banks are so closely related to the economy, and the economy's on life support at the moment.
Yeah. Does that bode well, though, for the other new entrants, I suppose, into the sector? Because they don't have the legacy issues. They don't have perhaps the massive bad debt issues as well to deal with at present. They just need to offer good quality products that will, I suppose, give some sort of short-term benefit, even if, in order for them to bulk up and I suppose, raise their equity from here on in.
Yeah, so those new banks, their biggest advantage obviously is they don't have that expensive branch network to maintain. So you can ride out the tough times. For them, though, their tough thing is they need to grow customer numbers. And because there's so many new banks, the demand for new, or the competition for new customers is quite difficult. So those banks need to, I don't know what the number is off my head, I think it's like 2 million new customers, roughly speaking, before you start breaking even. To get 2 million people to sign up with your bank, that's not easy. So they've got their own challenges. But in general, if a growing economy was happening, all the banks would be doing better. So it's a tough economy, tough times for local business.
Rob Shuter decides to not renew his contract as CEO of MTN at the end of March 2021, so a year from now. Any surprise there?
No, not really. The sense that I sort of got was that when MTN called him in, they said, look, we need you to stabilize the ship, we need you to implement new systems, and we'd like you to train someone to take your job. As Rob was saying earlier today, 4 years at MTN, given the diverse geographic areas that they work in and difficult political things, feels like he's been there for 8. So not surprised that he's moving on after 4. But you speak to people inside MTN, they say that he has made a massive difference to internal structures. MTN's a lot more focused, detail orientated, so that's good news. And when he leaves next year, he'll leave MTN in a better shape than he found it, with systems in place for the new CEO to take it forward. So another year to go though, so let's...
Is Ralph the new CEO?
I don't know. We will let MTN will know.
Your hope?
I don't know the man. I think this is where your board of directors needs to come in. They know the people personally. I do think the new CEO will be an internal candidate.
Sure.
And Ralph's got the experience, and he speaks very well. So,
We'll
ticking those boxes. But MTN will let us know. And
Jonas has a hard graft, I suppose, ahead to kind of set that leadership role in motion in some ways. Okay, very quickly also on their numbers, though. Detailing that Nigeria is still doing very well for them overall.
Yeah, that was obviously these numbers are backwards looking, and that doesn't take into account that the oil price dropped 30% on Monday. So, if the MTN share price was very hard hit on Monday. It dropped 13%. At least today it was up about 4% when I left the office. So, market's saying we are happy with it. But one of their problems is they're exposed to oil-producing nations, and if those nations aren't doing well, they will struggle. But what was really good to see is the leverage of the company is not too high, and their dividends increasing. So as a shareholder, those figures are pointing in the right direction.
Yeah. All right, Michael, thank you so much for the time.
Thanks,
really appreciate it. Michael Traherne there from Vestac Asset Management. Of course, we got to chat to both CEOs of ABSA and MTN. My colleague Diabo Sito got to sit down with MTN then as well, and got to a sense of really just how the business is faring. Where to from here, perhaps, for Rob Shooter as well. And I got to sit down with MTN, ABSA CEO, that's Daniel Minele, former Deputy Reserve Bank Governor, and really just detailing his thoughts on where to from here, competition for ABSA as well, and how they're going to deal with that, what their biggest issues are as they continue their path apart from the separation that they had, of course, with Barclays. We chat about all of that as well just after the short break. My colleague Nzinga Qunta as well will join you right after this. Do stay tuned. From me, though, here at the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, that's where the buck stops.